Welcome to MSP 1337. I'm your host, Chris Johnson, a show dedicated to cybersecurity challenges, solutions, a journey together, not alone. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of MSP 1337. It is the week of IT Nation Secure, and I'm joined this week by Morgan Bass with Wing Women. Morgan, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, your company does everything under the sun as it pertains to marketing, and
Yes.
everybody now is going, why are we having a marketing conversation on a cybersecurity podcast? So I will just tell them, why would we want our clients calling us when things are on fire and when things are broken? And quite honestly, why wouldn't we want them, in a communication that goes both ways on things that are, as you said, positive? So the thing that caught my eye, we see the world being somewhat saturated with this particular form of content, and that is the newsletter. And I don't know what the frequency that you happen to do this with Showtech, but just walk me through why a newsletter, the importance of it, and just kind of how it came about with Showtech. Like, I feel like MSPs in general aren't like sitting around going, man, I should do a newsletter. And then they follow that with the next thought would be like, I don't have time to do a newsletter.
Mm-hmm. No, I'd be happy to. So Showtech is one of our managed service provider clients based in Tampa. And our newsletter strategy with them really stemmed from a desire to want to internally market to our clients. So at the moment, the newsletter strategy for them is a bi-weekly to monthly newsletter that goes out just to our list of current clients. So we really took a look at and evaluated like what our bandwidth looks like on a marketing side, because we do have other avenues. We do events, we do social, we do all these things. So going back to your point on like the time commitment, content does take time. And let's say you have a smaller marketing team, or maybe don't have someone designated for marketing at all at this moment, you want to make sure it's something that's maintainable for your team. So I would even recommend starting out just to get in the habit of sending one like once a month, because you can eventually scale that up. But you don't want to go right out of the gate with once a week and then you can't maintain that, because we want to make sure we're having that consistent communication. But we do ours bi-weekly, and in the newsletter, it has like a brief overview. We spotlight anyone who's having a recent promotion in their job, in their role. And then we also spotlight some educational tidbits. So we have a podcast studio here at Showtech that we're recording content, educational content. So we're talking about topics like multi-factor or resetting your password or best practices for things. So we'll link that content so that our clients can get that educational component. And then we also offer special promotions. And so our whole reason for even starting the newsletter process is to internally nurture and market to our clients. Because we were talking before the podcast even started, is that I think a lot of people believe that once you sign that contract, it's almost like, okay, I can relax. Like, we got the client, like we're on to the next one. But in reality, once you sign that contract, that's when the marketing really starts, because you cross that first hurdle of actually getting that client. But now we have to not only maintain the level of service, but also create positive touch points so that when they're receiving sales pitches from, let's say, another local MSP, or when they're seeing another MSP posting on LinkedIn, we want to make sure that we're providing enough opportunity for them and enough positive touch points that it gives them a reason to stay with us and not get kind of like shiny object syndrome and go the other way.
I'm guilty of shiny object syndrome. I'm sure Charles can tell you how many shiny objects I bought back in the day. So that makes me think about a couple things. One, you mentioned creating content with Showtech. I would think one of the most challenging things in your space and working with MSPs is creating the relevant content that also reflects, say, Showtech or any of your MSP who you're working with, that it reflects their culture, their voice as it goes out to. How do you go about doing that? I mean, maybe it's trade secret, but
No, I mean, I think it comes down to, in those first initial meetings when you're meeting with a company, you have to get down to like what that special sauce is. For Showtech, I truly believe that they are a master when it comes to relationships, when it comes to relationships with the community, their clients. And so we really wanted to like leverage that side of them. So we bring in every other week a member from the community, whether they're a
Got
current client, a potential client. We bring them into the studio to ask them like IT related questions. That's the strategy route that we went with Showtech because we wanted to like showcase that side of them. For another MSP that might specialize in something else, we might like slightly tweak that, but it should be like unique to like your skill set and that individual company.
Gotcha. So it
Hmm.
really seems like the challenges that come into, there's always challenges, but so you had mentioned the frequency in which you do it. So
Hmm.
I would think that it's one of those things where if you're out of sight, out of mind. So is that touch point, you said biweekly or once a month.
Hmm.
Um, I how often do you think solution providers actually reach out and connect with their clients on a proactive basis?
How many service providers do? I would say, I know locally, I'm personally subscribed to a few of the competitors just because, have to keep tabs. And I've yet in my year of working, I've maybe received one newsletter from a MSP competitor. So I really don't think it's something that's like actively done. But then again, you would
Sure,
have to be on the clientele side of things. But I don't see a lot of local MSPs really prioritizing it like
sure.
they should.
So one of the things that we do at CompTIA is I oversee our cybersecurity compliance programs, and
Hmm.
part of that is getting MSPs that are going through to mature their cybersecurity practice is to talk through or explain how they gather their information. What's their source of knowledge, and you've seen these online where like, how did you learn about X? And you're like Google,
Hmm.
fill in the blank, event, and none of them very rarely do you see one that says, "Oh, it was in a newsletter," um, and I think that you're on to something because if if my trusted service provider is where I'm getting my information from, then there's so many things that I'm using that outside of that engagement, right? So I think about subscribing to say a cybersecurity or news feed for local, or maybe it's for the weather. Once you subscribe to it, you generally stop shopping if the
That's so
content's solid,
true.
right? You're not like, oh well, I got this on this channel and I really like the news anchor. Unless that news anchor leaves, you're probably never leaving. You're just gonna trust whatever it is that they say
Right.
because
That's the perfect
I,
example.
okay. So if someone was to get started, where do you start? Because I feel like the newsletter is like you've been working with them for a while. You didn't just say, hey, we should do a newsletter tomorrow.
Right.
How far in advance do you have to build out content for something like that? And then the danger of that prep work of like, is it still relevant information, knowing that like if you think about the news cycle in 24 hours, it's already yesterday's news.
Right. Yeah, that's a good question. Because I really do want people listening to walk away with like a tangible plan that they can implement and kind of evaluate their current
Sure.
strategy. So I always say step one is creating a plan, looking at like the resources you currently have, whether that's like one marketing manager, maybe you have like a marketing manager and assistant, or maybe you don't have anyone and like you're currently managing your own marketing. I would say you need to create a plan and look at like hours you want to allocate. So the very first priority would be content development. I think depending on your skill set, if you are comfortable in front of the camera, one of the easiest ways to develop a lot of content is to start recording. So even if you recorded like four short clips about like a variety of different topics, those clips could then be translated into written content, blog posts. They could be translated into captions. That is really like the top of the tree when it comes to content. And it's a little bit easier to manipulate it and contextualize it for all the other platforms. But starting with a plan, because let's say you don't have 10 hours a week to dedicate to marketing, then you're going to want to just do your four video clips, put them in the newsletter and share them on social. Like that would be a very straightforward strategy. But like if you have someone managing your marketing, then you could kind of play around a little bit more with like blog posts that get posted to the website, then they go on social and create more of a marketing web per se. Um, it is hard to evaluate your own marketing. So at Wing Woman, we do offer marketing strategies. So we'll come in and develop like a 6 month strategy that basically is like you go down a checklist and you just do all of these things. We give you the topics, everything. Because it's hard to look at your own marketing and really know because everything, even though we're only talking about newsletters today, like everything in marketing is kind of holding hands. So like the newsletter will complement social, which then complements the website. And because once you develop some of the content, you might as well leverage it on all these other platforms to get the most bang for your buck.
I feel like this is what you see a lot of times in contemporary churches, where the bulletin and the slides for the theme of the sermon
Yes,
series and the whatever's happening with this, it all has a
yes,
similar
yeah.
feel to it. There's no confusion about where you are, or what's going to happen. Sort of, I don't want to say happen next, but there's this warm feeling you get, and I think we see it in branding, but then you often don't see it go very far past that. So I do a
Hmm.
presentation or a webinar, and all of that's absent. So like right now, for those of you listening, we do record this via Zoom. Like my background doesn't have any reflection of the podcast or any sort of like scripted taglines that go along with it. The reality is, if you see the podcast and you subscribe to it, if you saw this on a YouTube video, you probably wouldn't do a quick correlation to say that they're the same thing.
Hmm.
I actually ran into this early on. Every episode I did, the thumbnail I would post would be the thumbnail for the episode topic. So like, if it was about ransomware, I'd have some sort of ransomware thumbnail. And I actually had several people give me feedback and say, "Hey, I need you to stop doing that." And I said, "Why?" And they're like, "Well, when I'm driving and I go to cue the podcast, when I see those other images, I'm not sure if I've queued to your podcast." And he's like, "I
Mm.
have kids in the car." He's like, "I know your podcast doesn't have explicit content." He's like, "So, I don't want to be the reason that I got in an accident just trying to look for the podcast." And I was like, "Okay, fair point. You just made my life easier because now I can just run with one image."
Right, you can just
Um,
right.
but I think that's something that the newsletter, like you said, it was just scratching the surface. So the idea would be, if I understand you correctly, is that no matter where I go, I should be able to see that resemblance of Showtech kind of reflecting back at me when I subscribe to my news content, when I'm on social media, assuming I
Hmm.
follow Showtech, and some of those other things that we take for granted and often don't do very well.
Yeah, no, and I think the church example was such a good tie-in because churches will kind of pick like a series or a theme for the month. And that's how you can think of your own marketing when you're just starting out is like, for example, right now when we're recording this, we're rolling into summer. So like people are traveling, people might be working remote. So like a theme for July could be remote work. We talk about impossible travel. We talk about the importance of protecting your bank accounts or letting your IT company know that you're traveling. And each week can be a certain topic that you then branch out. So I think like you bring up that example is a great way to think about segmenting your marketing because then it's easier to come up with ideas.
Like cyber sunscreen, like, are you applying the 70 proof? Nobody wants to get sunburnt, nobody wants to get cancer. Put on the 70
That's
proof or
really
better.
cute. Yeah, see, exactly. Yeah, you might have to come and do some marketing for us with that one. I love that.
I'll write them down, that way you can rule out the 80% that aren't very good.
That's so good.
So we've kind of established a theme here. We've said, you want to create positive messaging, first P. We don't want to be punching bags, because that was the
Right.
second one. And the third one, this is the one that I think we've kind of had kind of throughout, is the planning P.
Yes.
So as part of that planning, we're talking about, let's just say we do 4 quarters, or, 4 to 12 would be probably a lot
Hmm.
for someone starting out with this. But when you talked about planning at the beginning, I don't have 10 hours a week for marketing. What's a reasonable amount of time for someone? Let's just say it's a MSP of 5 to 10 employees.
Hmm.
What does that look like? Because there's this balancing act too of like, what are the goals? Because I think
Right.
content for my existing clients would be as valuable or more so than it is to just hook net new clients. That's a great
Mm-hmm.
byproduct, but it's not who I'm talking to. Like, I want everybody to know, like, this is not a sales pitch. This is a warm fuzzy to those that have, for lack of a better word, that already are drinking the Kool-Aid.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's hard to exactly say because, like you said, it's different with every MSP or every cyber company, depending on their goals. Because one company that is focused on sales versus another focused on retention could mean two completely different things. And then I also like to go to the executive suite. So, like, are they comfortable on video or are they more comfortable just writing blog posts? Like, do they have an office that we can all meet at? Are they all virtual? Like, all of those little things do impact the strategy as a whole
Sure.
because that could be the difference between like getting out in the community and having a more like event-based strategy versus
Yeah.
just having like a sole SEO, we're just writing blog strategy. But I want it to always complement the company because I think in marketing as a whole, there's such a push to be like, you have to be showing up on social, you have to be on video, all these things. And it's like, you don't have to be doing that. Like, you have to pick something that like you can maintain. And if you push yourself too much outside of your comfort zone, you're not going to maintain it. Like, we have to take like little baby steps to some of those things, but you have to pick something that's like comfortable for you in the beginning.
Sure. I'm really bad at that. Like, I tried for probably a good year to post on LinkedIn every week, and I would post like the episode, I'd say some comment, or I'd
Hmm.
post the previous week's episode. And then I just started to forget because I got prioritized elsewhere. And
Right.
it's funny because then I've had people that are on the show go, "Hey, when is that episode gonna go live?" And I'm like, it went live 3 weeks ago. My bad.
Yeah. Right. I mean, and a lot of it too is like you have to practicing the habit. It's like anything, like in life,
Sure.
even like in your personal life with like, let's say like meal prepping or like wanting to add in a new habit. It takes a
Yeah.
long time to get used to it, and sometimes like it won't even stick. Like it's you have to adapt to it and build that habit just like you would any other.
So walk me through a the perfect plan. I mean, I realize perfect is a
Okay.
strong word, but like if I was creating a checklist to get started, maybe I'm sort of pre-engaging a third party because I think most solution providers, they're going to likely need to engage somebody to help with this because no matter how habit forming they might make this, um, they have a lot of other things that they should be focusing on. So
Right.
maybe there's that first step though of drafting that picture of what do I want. I feel like that's a hard piece. Like everybody says, well, I want more clients. Well, one would say retention probably will help enhance the more clients if your retention cycles are, that 3 year, two, three
Exactly.
year,
Yeah.
and they're leaving because they feel neglected. Um,
Hmm.
you said it well, I think. The marketing piece for a solution provider is not the first thing you do. It's not the pre-client. This is you signed a
Hmm.
client, and now marketing really becomes you now just launched your marketing plan strategically with, and I think to some extent you might say even with that client. I mean, I think you could probably using tools and automation today, you could probably make something feel very personal on a per client basis
Hmm.
that is not the typical experience of like, oh, I went and checked the box to please send me the newsletter because I came to your website so you can,
Right.
spam me. So what does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why there is so much value in bringing in an external service provider, even if it isn't for the long term when it comes to marketing, even if it is just for like a month or two to evaluate where you're currently at, recommend a strategy, and then based on if you say like I have 15 hours a month that I can spend, like that individual can say, okay, we based on that information, then we need to automate these things so that you can focus like your personalization time on email or like on social or like whatever that is. So I do think there's a lot of value in that because a lot of times if you've been running your MSP for 4 years, 5 years, you have blind spots. Like you're in your routine and sometimes you don't have the time or have someone there to guide you through a process of like, okay, why are we doing this? Like, is it really achieving like what we need it to be achieving right now? And like, are there areas that we could slim down and then reallocate that energy elsewhere that would make like financially more sense, and just like resource allocation when it comes to labor hours, like does it make more sense to do it a different way? Um, but it always starts with the planning part first. And so like when we first start with a client, we spend a month kind of evaluating everything and then walking them through like a few series of like brand calls, brand meetings where we're trying to dig deep into their goals. Because someone might say like, "Oh, I know we need to post on social," but it's like, why are we posting on social? Is it for retention? Is it for new clients? Is it because we want to attract like a specific community partner? There's all these different things. And then the second part would be like our content and our marketing flow. So we'd want to map out like, okay, top of the tree, it's going to be blog post, which then get broken up into a series of Instagram posts that we then record in the studio. So I like to kind of map all that out on paper because I think it helps when you can visually see like a step by step what we're doing. Um, and then you honestly just have to put it on the calendar, because I truly believe that if you're not blocking off time in the calendar for like recording sessions or marketing update meetings to evaluate everything, then you're going to go three more months, two more quarters, another year without having like a successful marketing strategy. And I mean, long term, that can really impact like the success of your business.
So thinking through that with regards to the time commitment. So there's 168 hours in a week. There's if we were to, sleep 8 hours a day, that's now we're at 112 hours left of that 168. So 112, and we figure, let's just say we work 55 hours a week. That leaves us with 57 hours to personal hygiene, spend time with
Mm-hmm.
family, um, commute, and the list goes on and on and on. Pretty soon, I figure I'm down to of time I have left over. I might have a couple hours a week. What kind of investment should someone make, whether they're outsourcing this to Wing Woman or somebody else or
Mm-hmm.
not, to be successful with something as, I don't want to trivialize it, but as simple as a blog post?
Yeah. Um, so I think that's like, if you, for outsourcing wise, like let's say you have that amount of hours, but maybe you don't have the budget to outsource. So, and I mean, even after this episode, like let's say someone listening is in that position where they not necessarily have the budget to outsource. I'm happy to take any questions around like, hey, like I'm not quite ready yet, but like, what should I be focusing on if I have this many hours a week? I'm happy to take those questions. But if they are in a position where they can outsource, I mean, that's the good thing about how we're structured, is that we offer the flexibility to like scale up and scale down depending on like busy seasons with
Sure.
things. But I would definitely estimate um for a good marketing strategy, like you said, I would say like 10 hours a week, especially starting out. And then we can start to really evaluate and see what we can streamline, automate. And then it becomes a little bit more of like a machine after that, that you're still able to personalize, but you have your roadmap set out. But I would
Sure.
anticipate like 10 hours. And that would be for like an outsourced service provider, maybe someone who's more entry level internal, 15 or so hours a week. But you definitely want to be in that range.
Gotcha. So this is a upfront serious commitment of well a, a good percentage of the working day, really. So my
Mm-hmm.
55, 60 hour week just had 15 hours knocked out for marketing for the, at
Mm-hmm.
least for, a 3 to 6 week period of time, to
Mm-hmm.
establish the calendar, the routine, the plan. And
Exactly.
then so then, okay, I'm 6 weeks in. um where does it go from there? So let's just assume I've outsourced it, and I, 'cause the reality is I can come up with topic ideas. We can brainstorm and do
Yeah.
video content. Video's fast and easy, right? I mean, we're doing this right now.
Mm-hmm.
The prep work was I turned on the Zoom meeting and then I
Right.
hit I hit record, right? So, um, what kind of polish do you see being necessary on content that's created? Is it more of a raw, um, from the heart or from the, mind of the MSP, or is it more of like we got to put to go back to the church reference of making sure that we put all of the shiny object to it?
Hmm. Yeah, so I think if there is wiggle room in the amount of hours you have a week to allocate, then I always recommend like adding in those little branded touches post production. But once you hit like the 6 to 8 week mark, like your marketing individual has kind of set up workflows and things that make it a little bit easier for you to maintain, like you were saying, with like doing the Zooms or something like that. Because at that point you have a format and you have a template that you can basically just like pick up and like paste it over every single month because you're in a good flow. Once you get to that point, though, you have the opportunity to either maintain that, which would be great. Like your business will still grow in terms of sales, retention, all those things. But you also have the opportunity to unlock what the next level looks like. And that next level is things like community events or events with complementary vendors. It can also look like PR, so like getting in the local news. We had Carrie last summer on the local TV channel here in Tampa talking about like summer travel, remote work. So like that's kind of like level two. So once you get that format going, like your machine will still run as long as you feed it. But then you can just scale up and continue scaling up. Um, but then your hourly commitment, because you already have that machine running, you have room to add in that extra stuff. So it's just continuous growth.
So how do you measure the success? Like, what are the like? I'm guessing there's got to be some sort of KPI that says, LinkedIn's always an easy one. Like, if you post something,
Hmm.
like how many impressions, how many views, how much time did they spend on the post? Those are all
Hmm.
tracked in LinkedIn. But not all platforms work that way. Like, I think about like a newsletter. I would imagine you've got to use some sort of tool that shows how many opens did we get, how many ignores. I mean, I've even seen it with
Yeah.
topic titles for the podcast. I had one that was probably one of my worst episodes, and it just skyrocketed in the number of playbacks. And when I went and did some digging, I'm almost positive it was the title of the episode. But
Hmm.
I had no way of knowing that it wasn't like I did like some sort of like Google Analytics keywords to
Right.
use in title phrases for the episode. It just happened to be,
It's just,
kind of
yeah.
like playing
Isn't
the
that the
lottery.
best?
It's the
Yeah,
best.
I love that for you. That's um I mean there's always like those types of metrics. Specific to LinkedIn, we're always looking for like profile visits or something like that. Because it shows like the next step in intention because your mom can like your LinkedIn post, but we're looking for like sales intention, which would be seeing a post, clicking on it, visiting the profile, and the next step with that would be like a website click. So like not only are they clicking to the profile, they're also clicking to the website. So we're typically tracking that because I mean everyone's kind of at some point like a silent stalker on social media, meaning you
Of
might
course.
see stuff that pops up in your feed, but you're not like liking it or commenting on it. Which is why we look for those other silent intention metrics.
Sure.
And then we also look for like real world feedback. So like asking the client, after like a particular event, what was the feedback like? Did how many people called up to follow up on X, Y, and Z CTA that we had? When we send out the newsletter, how many people called on the promotion? Like those things help even more adjust month after month because like we always want to look at the numbers, but sometimes like humans will call with like real feedback that is more valuable than even looking at like the open rate or the click
Sure.
rate. And then that's when it like really clicks.
Well, as we are running out of time, Morgan, please let the
Oh,
audience know where they can find you.
yeah, I would love to connect with everyone, whether you're looking for outsourcing or even if you just have a few marketing questions that you want to clarify. I'm on LinkedIn. I would love to connect with you there or our website, wingwomanbrands.com.
Awesome. Thank you. For those of you listening, have a great week.